There's a list of things you're not supposed to do anymore. Things your grandparents did every single week without thinking twice. Today, in many places, these acts are fined. They are restricted. They're called non-compliant. But here is the mystery no one talks about. None of these methods stopped working. The rain still falls. The sun still heats. The soil still grows. So why were these 10 tricks pushed to the edge of the law? Was it for safety? Or was it to make sure you could never survive without the system? Your grandparents were not criminals. They were just free. They produced their own water, their own food, their own heat, their own soap. And they did it without asking permission from anyone. Let's go through the 10 off-grid tricks that still work today. Listen carefully. This knowledge was almost lost. For thousands of years, catching the rain was simply having a roof. Every farmhouse in the 1920s had a cistern. It was gravity and patience. When the sky opened, you closed a valve. That water washed your hair, watered your hogs, and saved you from walking 2 miles to the well. Grandparents never called it harvesting. They called it living. The system was simple. Gutters fed a barrel. A screen kept out leaves. A spigot at the bottom gave you pressure. No pumps. No chemicals. No monthly bill. Imagine the sound of rain on a tin roof. Now, imagine knowing that every drop hitting that metal belongs to you. That is security. That is independence. That is the sound of freedom. Your grandparents slept well because they knew the next dry spell would not hurt them. They had water stored. They had water falling. They had water for free. Today, in states like Colorado and Utah, until very recently, catching rain on your own property was a misdemeanor. Why? Because of water rights. The legal argument says that water falling from the sky must flow downstream to a farmer who paid for the allotment, or to a corporation. You're not allowed to interrupt the flow of commerce, even with a bucket. Some states still limit you to 110 gallons of storage. Think about that. You own the land. You own the roof. But you do not own the sky. A simple barrel and a diverter still works. For gardens, for emergencies, for life. The sky does not send a bill. And that is exactly why they tried to stop it. Before the refrigerator, there was the earth. 6 feet down, the temperature holds steady at 40 degrees regardless of whether it is July or January. Grandparents knew this secret. They dug into a north-facing hill, added a simple air vent, and created a biological miracle. No electricity, no coolant, no moving parts, just thermal mass and good sense. The construction was simple. Stone or concrete walls. A wooden door facing north to keep out the summer sun. A small pipe for fresh air to enter low and another to exit high. That is it. Potatoes, carrots, apples, cabbages, and even meat would last for months. There's a specific smell to a root cellar. Damp earth, apples, and stored onions. It smells like January. It smells like surviving the winter without needing a grocery store. Your grandparents opened that door in March and found dinner waiting for them. No trucks, no supply chains, no empty shelves. Modern building codes rarely forbid root cellars outright, but they have made them economically extinct. Why build a dirt hole when you can sell a $3,000 stainless steel fridge with ice makers and Wi-Fi? Many counties now classify root cellars as uninhabitable spaces requiring expensive permits and inspections. They did not outlaw the knowledge. They just made it inconvenient to remember. You can still bury a concrete septic tank or an old chest freezer. Add a pipe for fresh air and a drain for humidity. Your potatoes will last until July. The grid can fail. Dirt does not. That is the difference. For 10,000 years, seed saving was the contract between man and land. You planted the strongest. You harvested the best. You dried the seeds. You stored them in a jar. Next spring, you did it again. No money changed hands. No company owned the genetics. No lawyer could sue you for replanting. This was freedom encoded in a bean. The method is almost too simple. Let your healthiest plant go to seed. Wait for the pods to dry on the stalk. Harvest them on a dry day. Remove the seeds. Spread them on a screen for 2 weeks. Store them in a glass jar in a cool, dark cabinet. That is it. That is 10,000 years of wisdom. There is a deep emotional intelligence in saving a seed. You are betting on next year. You are telling your family, we will be here. It is hope made physical. Every seed is a promise between generations. In the 1930s, hybrid seeds arrived. They produce a great crop once, but the second generation is useless. You cannot save them because they will not breed true. Then came intellectual property laws. Today, it is technically patent infringement to save seeds from certain GMO crops. Corporations did not outlaw saving. They made the act pointless unless you buy heirloom varieties. Buy open-pollinated heirlooms. Save them properly in a cool, dark jar. The law cannot stop biology. If you can dry a bean, you can beat the system. 1 jar of seeds is a middle finger to the patent office. Grandma never called it greywater. She just called it used. The water from the washing tub or the bath bucket went straight to the fruit trees. Soap and all, the phosphates fed the plants. The water did 2 jobs before it returned to the earth. This was not laziness. This was intelligence. The setup was brutally simple. The washing machine drained into a bucket. The bucket had holes drilled in the bottom. That bucket sat next to an apple tree. Every load of laundry watered the tree. No pipes, no permits, no thinking required. There's a quiet dignity in using something twice. It is not poverty. It is stewardship. Every drop of water that touches your skin should water a tree after. That feels right. That feels complete. Your grandparents understood that waste is just a word for things you are too lazy to use again. The Uniform Plumbing Code, adopted by most states, demands that all household water go to the septic or sewer. They fear bacteria. They fear contamination. But grandparents used biodegradable soap and rotated where the water went. No one got sick. No one died. Today, in many dry counties, diverting your washing machine without a $5,000 permit is a violation. A simple 3-way valve costs $40. Send the water to your fruit trees. Use plant-based soap without boron or salt. Never let the water pool on the surface. Never use it on root vegetables like carrots or potatoes. The inspectors rarely look in your backyard, but your trees will thank you. Your water bill will drop, and you will feel like your grandparents again. Salt is the oldest preservation method on Earth. It predates pottery. It predates writing. Grandpa would butcher the hog in November when the air was cold and dry. He packed the meat in salt. He hung it in the smokehouse. He let the air and time do the work. By April, the bacon was still perfect. By August, the ham was still good. The science is simple. Salt pulls out moisture. Bacteria need moisture to live. No moisture means no spoilage. Grandparents did not need thermometers or pH strips. They used their eyes and their nose. If it smelled right, it was right. There is a primal safety in hanging meat. It says we are prepared. It says winter does not scare us. It is the opposite of panic buying. When you have a smokehouse full of meat, you do not fear the grocery store closing. The USDA did not ban home curing, but they buried it in paperwork. Commercial curing requires nitrite measurements, humidity logs, temperature records, and certified facilities. They told us the old way was dangerous. Yet humans did it for 10,000 years without a single plastic wrap package or government inspector. Equilibrium curing uses precise salt ratios. 2.5% salt by weight. That is the formula. A converted refrigerator with a small fan makes a perfect drying chamber. Salt pork is just pork belly packed in salt for 2 weeks. No smoking required. No special equipment. You do not need permission to preserve a pig. You just need salt and patience. The grocery store is a recent invention. Your grandparents did fine without it. Grandparents did not flush drinking water. Think about that for a moment. They did not take water that was clean enough to drink and use it to carry away waste. They used an outhouse or a bucket. They covered the waste with wood ash or lime or sawdust. They let it sit for 1 full year. After 12 months of composting, that waste became soil. Safe, rich, Neutral. No smell. No pathogens. Just earth. The method is simple. Deposit waste. Cover with carbon material like sawdust or dried leaves. Repeat until the bucket is full. Dump it into a compost pile that is separate from your vegetable compost. Wait 1 year. Use it on fruit trees or ornamental plants. That is it. That is the whole system. This is the hardest trick to love. But consider the logic. You are drinking water that has been on this planet for 4 billion years. Every molecule has been through a dinosaur, a tree, and yes, another human. Closing the loop with your own waste is not gross. It is honest. It is mature. Most building codes demand a flush toilet connected to an approved septic or sewer system. Composting toilets are often classified as unapproved waste treatment. Why? Because the sewer system is a business. If you compost your own waste, you stop paying the water bill. You stop paying the sewer bill. And you stop needing the treatment plant. In most rural areas, a composting toilet is perfectly legal if you do not have a flush toilet installed at the same time. Check your local codes. Use sawdust. Let it sit for a year. The earth will thank you, and you will never fear a plumbing failure again. Hardwood ash contains potassium hydroxide. That is a scientific fact. When you run rainwater through ash, you create lye. When you mix that lye with animal fat, you get soap. Grandparents never bought detergent. They burned wood to heat their home. They saved the grease from cooking. And they cleaned their bodies with chemistry they controlled completely. The process is ancient. Take white ash from hardwood like oak or maple. Not pine, not softwood. White ash. Put in a barrel with holes drilled in the bottom. Place that barrel over a wooden bucket. Pour rainwater through the ash. Let drip slowly. What comes out is lye water. There is a specific roughness to homemade lye soap. It does not smell like a perfume factory. It smells like clean. It smells like you earned it. Your grandparents did not have 12 different bottles for 12 different surfaces. They had one bucket of soap. It washed their bodies, their clothes, their dishes, and their floors. One thing, many uses. Making lye soap is not illegal, but selling it without FDA labeling is. More importantly, the industry has convinced us that soap must come in colorful plastic bottles with 40 ingredients. They want you to forget that a bucket of ashes and a pound of bacon fat will wash anything. Leach rainwater through white ash. Test the lye strength with a raw egg. If it floats with a nickel-sized circle showing, it is ready. Mix with melted fat. Stir until it traces. Pour into a mold. Wait 6 weeks for the lye to neutralize. You just made soap from trash. That is alchemy, and it is legal. Grandpa did not have solar panels. He had glass. He built his home facing south. He put dark stone or concrete on the floor. The sun came in through the windows. The floor warmed up. That heat radiated all night long. 0 wires. 0 batteries. 0 monthly payments. 0 maintenance. The physics is inevitable. Dark colors absorb light and turn it into heat. Stone and concrete hold that heat for hours. Glass lets light in but traps heat inside. That is not technology. That is the greenhouse effect. Your grandparents used it without ever reading a manual. Waking up in a house that the sun warmed is a specific kind of peace. You feel the planet cooperating with you. You're not fighting the weather. You're using it. The sun rises every single day without fail. It sends free energy to your roof. The only question is whether you are smart enough to let it in. Modern homes face the street, not the sun. Why? Because a $20,000 solar panel system makes profit for an installer and a manufacturer. A south-facing window does not. Some homeowners associations and historic districts have actually banned visible passive solar modifications like window awnings or thermal shutters because they look different from the neighbors. Add a sunroom on the south side of your home. Paint a concrete floor black or dark gray. Use thermal curtains to trap the heat at night. Build a simple solar heater. Paint empty cans black, stack them in a glass box, and let a small fan pull the hot air inside. The sun still rises. it still sends free energy. You just have to be smart enough to let it in. No permits required. Money is a relatively new invention. For most of human history, we did not use cash. We traded egg for nails, labor for milk, a fixed fence for a slaughtered pig, a jar of honey for a pair of boots. No invoices, no receipts, no taxes, just trust between neighbors. Your grandparents grew up in a world where knowing people mattered more than having money. The system was simple. You had something they needed. They had something you needed. You shook hands. The deal was done. No contracts, no lawyers, no government forms. There's a specific feeling when you trade instead of buy. Barter feels like community. When you trade, you look someone in the eye. You value their skill. You're not a consumer. You are a neighbor. That feeling is worth more than the goods themselves. The IRS considers barter taxable income. If you trade a goat worth $300 for a chainsaw worth $300, you are technically supposed to report that on your taxes. The value of the goat is income. The value of the chainsaw is also income. You're supposed to pay tax on both. Most grandparents never did that. Most people still do not. But the law is written to tax every transaction, even ones that do not involve cash. Barter is still happening in every rural community. Trade your skills. Trade your produce. Trade your labor. Keep it quiet. Keep it local. Cash leaves a trail. Eggs do not. And the IRS has never audited a handshake. Your grandparents understood that money is just a tool. It is not the only way. Grandpa never pulled a permit for his woodshed or his chicken coop or his workshop. He just built it. He measured with his eyes. He cut with his hands. He hammered until it was done. And for most of history, if the structure was small, nobody cared. It was a shed. It was storage. It was nobody's business. The magic number is 120 square feet. That is 10 feet by 12 feet. That is enough space for a bed, a wood stove, a small table, and storage. That is a tiny cabin. That is a guest house. That is a retreat. There is a specific feeling of building something without asking permission. It is the feeling of being free. 4 walls, a roof, a door. That is all shelter really is. Your grandparents did not need a stamp on a piece of paper to build a roof over their head. Today, most building codes require permits for anything permanent. But almost every jurisdiction has a loophole for accessory structures under 120 square feet. Legally, it is a shed. Practically, it is a tiny home. No inspections. No property tax increase. No permits. No waiting. Build a 10 by 12 shed on skids or a concrete block foundation. Do not run permanent plumbing. Do not connect to the grid permanently. Use a composting toilet. Use a small solar panel for lights and phone charging. Use a propane camp stove for cooking. You're not building a house. You're storing your tools. The system created the loophole. You're just using it. Check your local code. But in most counties, 120 square feet is the line you do not cross. Stay under it. Stay free. None of these 10 tricks are illegal because they are dangerous. They are restricted because they threaten a system built on dependence. You pay for water, electricity, food, and taxes on every transaction. Grandparents paid less because they made more. Resilience is not bought. It is practiced. You do not need permission to catch rain, or save a seed, or warm your home with the sun. Choose one trick from this list. Build the rain barrel. Dig the root cellar. Save the seeds. Do it this month. Subscribe if you want to remember what else they took from us. Part 2 goes even deeper.